welcome to the show. This is the Frankly Fantasy Football Podcast, fantasy football for the average Joe. We are your hosts, Frankie and Johnny. Happy Halloween, Frankie.
Happy Halloween, Johnny, baby. Did you go trick-or-treating? Huh?
Yeah, you know what? I didn't, man. I'm sorry. I didn't do the trick-or-treat thing this year. I had to do some podcast prep, first of all, and I'm going to Vegas today after we record for work. So I got things going on. I'm sorry. The kids in the building had to go to somebody else. So, you know. Hey, you look good, man. I thought we were talked about dressing up. I thought you were going to dress up.
You know, I know this is my usual Saturday night attire, if you can see. You know, I'm a beach goer from the Buckeye State. So, yes, man,
Wait, let me guess. Your costume is an Ohio douchebag.
That is, no. An Ohio State douchebag.
Well, I live in Indiana. All the IU fans, they think all Ohio State fans are douchebags anyway, but that's just because.
So enjoy it. Enjoy this thing.
They hate us because they ain't us, Frankie.
Boom.
That's exactly right. Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Today is the show to watch. So if you're a listener on Spotify or Apple or Google, make sure you watch the YouTube video today. We're dressed up ridiculously. I got a little, Western Yellowstone feel going on, or maybe a badass cop. Step out of the car, please. Frankie's got his Ohio State douchebag fan going on. Love it, man. Please join us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Watch this video on YouTube at Frankly Fantasy Football and on Twitter at Frankly Fantasy F. Frankie, why don't we get into a little bit of news right now? We got a lot going on, buddy.
The season 2,000 yards. Absolutely lost. Football.
News and notes.
All right, this news and notes is brought to you by CalSpra Employee Recruitment Services. Tired of staffing companies charging high hourly rates to recruit subpar employees for your business? CalSpra Employee Recruitment Services sets you up with a program that sustains a constant flow of new recruits coming to your door. How do they do it? It's simple. They had to. CalSpra has owned a manufacturing business since 1989, and when the employee crisis hit, they came up with a system with proven results. No hourly fees for employees they bring to your business, just one flat fee to get you real results. For more information, call now at 330-584-7759 and use the promo phrase Frankie and Johnny to get a free consultation for your business. All right, Frankie, let's get into the news and notes here. Luckily, the Grim Reaper of Halloween did not take us out too much. We didn't have too many guys really hurt us as far as injuries go. Nothing lost for the season, it seems like at the moment. Let's get into the one that might hurt people this coming week, maybe just this coming week only. Cooper Kupp tweaks an ankle in garbage time. That was a real screw up by McVay there. Don't you agree? They were getting blown out. Garbage time, why they didn't run the ball, why Cooper Kupp was even in the game at that point, I don't know. But the quote is that they dodged a bullet with his injury. It is an ankle, doesn't seem to be serious, but monitor his status. It is very possible he could miss this week. More issues with the wide receivers for the Green Bay Packers. If they don't make a trade for one of these guys before the deadline, which we're recording this on Tuesday, and we're hoping to get breaking news as we record, but the trade deadline is today at 4. You're going to be listening to this on Wednesday. Christian Watson left the game with a concussion. He just can't get his receivers on the field. Allen Lazard was out last week as well. Really tough sledding for Aaron Rodgers and crew. Devontae Parker, wide receiver for the New England Patriots, left the game with a knee sprain. Should only miss one game, and then they have a bye. So he should be good to go for week 11. Irv Smith, tight end for the Minnesota Vikings, left the game. He's going to get an MRI on his ankle. Monitor that status as well. Mark Ingram, running back for the New Orleans Saints, has an MCL sprain. He is going to be out 3 to 4 weeks. You know what that means, Frankie. Fire up Alvin Kamara. He had a great game. We're going to talk about him in a little bit here. Get him fired up without Mark Ingram stealing, 4, 5, 6 carries. It's even better for Alvin. Rashad Bateman, another team that's struggling with receiving options here. Rashad Bateman, wide receiver for the Baltimore Ratbirds, left the game with a foot injury. And according to John Harbaugh, the head coach, he's going to miss a few weeks. Another concussion here. Richie James, talk about a wide receiver room that's just been absolute shit. Richie James, wide receiver for the New York Giants, out with a concussion. Leaving that shit-ass room in the wide receiver room in the New York Giants, Kadarius Toney was traded to the Chiefs. Ooh. And I know it's interesting. This is kind of a home run hitter type guy and could be very, very interesting on the Chiefs. According to Coach Andy Reid, they won't be rushed, or he won't be rushed into playing until he's, quote, comfortable. So it's going to be he was a little bit banged up and hurt anyway, so it's going to be a slow transition, I think, into the Chiefs. How do you feel about this particular trade with Kadarius Toney to the Chiefs?
I think it makes a whole lot of sense, John. I think with they're missing a true home run hitter. Juju has really stepped up as that mid-level tier kind of route guy, right? He's a possession type of receiver. And then you have MVS, who they signed on a $20 million deal to be that home run hitter, and he just hasn't been super efficient. He has had moments, but they're desperately missing that of Tyreek Hill. Understanding Tyreek Hill is in a class, tier 1, right?
Obviously,
it's going to be hard to replace him. But Kadarius Toney is a very, very versatile receiver, very fast, was excellent at Florida, and when he was healthy and on the field, even with the subpar QB and that of Daniel Jones, he still was able to show out. So, John, I think once Toney gets up and rolling, he could make some hay here at Kansas City and really elevate this offense even more so than what they are.
Yeah, I think they're just going to keep throwing shit on the ceiling until something sticks.
Exactly.
I mean, they've got all of these guys that are decent receivers, but nobody's really popped, and they're going to spread the ball around to all of them. What I like about Kadarius Toney is that big playability. Mm-hmm. He's a guy who can take a 5-yard slant to the house, and that will be a very nice thing for Patrick Mahomes. I can see this being a broken play, Patrick Mahomes, scrambling in the backfield and then finding Kadarius Toney because he gets open. That's kind of what I'm looking at. He's a sit right now. If you could trade for him and get him cheap, I think that'd be a good idea. But I would hold on to him for a couple of weeks, let him get comfortable, like Andy Reid said, and get healthy. And, he could be a guy who could really help you out down the stretch here at the end. All right, Frankie. So the trade deadline, as people listen to this, they're going to listen to us speculate right now on a few guys, and things will obviously, the deadline will have come and gone. So we could look like absolute assholes, but you know what? Are we ever afraid to look like assholes, Frankie?
Never.
All right, let's talk about a couple of guys here. Kareem Hunt, Monday Night Football, the Browns just rolled, man. Woo! That is what we were looking for the goddamn Browns all season long. That's how they should play football. Kareem Hunt, here's what's interesting. He was utilized. I had Kareem Hunt as a sit because the past 2 weeks he has not been utilized, has not had very many touches, single-digit touches, in previous 2 games. Last week, he was used, man. I'm starting to wonder if the Browns are looking at this saying, you know what, wait a minute. We won this game in a dominating fashion. Maybe we don't trade Kareem Hunt this year. Maybe that 3rd-round pick, that 4th-round pick that they're speculating on maybe getting, maybe it's more important for them to make a run right now than it is to get that draft pick. What do you think about that?
So my personal perspective on it, John, I think they would be pretty ridiculous not to get the draft picked. And I say that because there's been, tweets flying around from multiple sources about Miami. And here's what it backs into, John. And we've talked about this as well separately. Guys, Kareem's contract is up. And I'm going to pair in another guy is Jack Conklin. Jack Conklin's contract is going to be up. And so there's a lot of these guys that we're going to need to pay for. And the reality of the situation is we don't want to have to pay for them. And so if we can get capital, I know Miami has floated out, hey, there might be Gesicki, Byron Jones. We might even add in a 1st-round pick if we get Kareem Hunt and Jack Conklin in a team that needs to win now, that don't need to potentially worry about paying them for next year. And so for the Browns, even though technically the Browns are in a win now situation, I don't think that it makes sense for us not to get some sort of collateral for them, even though Kareem was used and he was very efficient with his use. It really comes back to just what is the team made up of? And right now we have Chubb, Durnest, and Ford once he's back off IR and things like that. So for me, John, if I'm looking at it from the lens of a GM perspective, I'm still going to look to trade Kareem, and it was almost as if they were showcasing Kareem. Like, hey, here's all the things you can do with him. And here's how effective he is. We unfortunately can't do it. And John, here, there was a key point in the game yesterday, and it was at the very end. And it was when Durness was in and he was playing. I swear to God, it looked like Kareem had like a tear in his eye. It was almost like he knew that this was it. And so for me, man, I think it's the Browns it's almost like, here, man, we know we can't pay you. Go to a team that you can win now on, whether that is the Rams, whether that's the Bills, whether that's Miami. All three of those teams are in a different caliber right now than the Browns. And so I think it would really help Kareem and his stock for next year, in addition to the Browns getting something compared to completely losing out on him for next year as well. Because, again, we will not be able to pay him. So that's just my perspective on it.
That's a good take. I like it a lot. I think right now that Miami deal that's been rumored seems to be the winner at the moment.
Yeah.
Do you think that's where they're going to go with that, most likely?
It would make too much sense for the Browns not to take that. But I also my thought is, John, is the validity of that deal, right? So many things are being, spun up and talked about. And even though they're credible sources, nobody really knows. Unless you're in that war room, nobody knows. And so, but I would say that the leading candidate, based on everything that's been leaked, would be that trade deal with Miami, which involves Mike Gesicki, Byron Jones, a couple picks for that of Jack Conklin and Kareem Hunt.
Yeah. All right. I love it. That would be an exciting trade, I think, man. What does that do to Kareem's value going to Miami?
Skyrocket and flight. Woo! Afternoon delight. Yeah, dude, that's going to skyrocket. Go ahead. It looks like you.
It is, man. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's he's going to have a ton of value with that passing attack and with what he can do in the passing attack as well. The one thing that does hurt with that, Raheem Mostert is completely irrelevant at that point. Chase Edmonds, he's already been irrelevant anyway. So at this point, Edmonds could be completely dropped. In fact, he'll probably get traded if they make a move for Kareem like that, because they just don't need him on the roster at all. All right, let's talk about a couple of receivers here, man, because there are going to be some splash receivers, I think, go by the end of the day today. I want to talk about three guys, and I want to look at where you think their best fits would be. And the answer to all three of these cannot be Green Bay, even though one of these guys will most likely be on Green Bay. Brandon Cooks, Chase Claypool, and Jerry Jeudy. Talk to me about these guys.
So I'm going to start with Brandon Cooks. And I really like Brandon Cooks in two different areas. We're two different teams. Outside of Green Bay, I'm not going to go Green Bay there, because honestly, that to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense with the play style. I mean, it does for what the needs are, but the play style of Cooks and what their current talent pool is, it's not really a super need. And so for me, I'm looking at it, maybe the Ratbirds, Ravens, right? You have Bateman going down. Yeah, you just signed D-Jack, but my God, he's a speedster who's 34 years old. Okay, let's level set expectations here. So now you're going to have Mark Andrews, who's banged up. You have Duvernay, and then likely none of those guys outside of Mark Andrews, man, gets me excited and really is helping out Lamar in any way, shape, or form. So what you can do is you can replace Marquise Brown with a very similar type of player. And we saw that chemistry. We saw what that looked like, John. And so for me, Brandon Cooks makes a lot of sense heading to Baltimore. Now, the only issue in all of that is Baltimore just paid heavily in draft capital to get Roquan Smith. So they gave a second and a fifth, I believe. So their ability to be able to make a splash trade with some heavy picks might not be there. But from a talent pool perspective, it absolutely makes sense. And the way the Ravens are the trajectory of the Ravens, being 5-3, they need to win now. And they need to surround Lamar with as much talent as humanly possible, especially with the injuries that I mentioned, but also the injuries with the running backs, John. We haven't even hit on that. And so really, just as a whole, that talent pool has really been decimated. So Brandon Cooks, to me, would be really, really fascinating with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. What are your thoughts?
I like that as well. Yeah, I think that'd be a really good landing spot for him. I do think Brandon Cooks does get traded today. What about Chase Claypool? Do you think he's a great candidate for Aaron Rodgers? Because I personally do.
For me, John, I would say no. And I want to know your take on why. And I think it's going to be very interesting. And I say no because of the character issues. It's not necessarily the play. I think it's literally, do you want to bring in another guy that has some weird issues? And what happens if Aaron Rodgers isn't feeding him the ball? Now he's throwing a fit, that kind of thing. And in addition to that, I say no because we're starting to see the Steelers use him And his usage has been way up from a rushing perspective to quick outs, not just like long, deep balls. So Kenny Pickett is really started picking apart, right? That was interesting. The defenses by leveraging that of Claypool, whether, again, that was from the rushing side or for that of the receiving side. So for me, I actually think, when we were talking about this 2 weeks ago or last week, I would have said, yeah, I definitely think Claypool should be traded. Now I'm kind of reeling that back in, John, and I'm like, hold on. What if they had Claypool with Pickens moving forward? And maybe Deontay Johnson's the guy, not to be traded this year, but maybe down the road that might end up going to a different team. So it's very interesting. It's strictly because of the youth and the big playability in Claypool. But maybe, John, I'm actually leaning more towards he might not get traded and end up staying with the Steelers.
I think it's possible they've been showcasing him. It's only been about 2 weeks that they've actually brought him back into the fold. I think that they're trying to showcase his athletic ability a little bit. I think he does get traded. All right. What about Jerry Jeudy? Now, is he the dream candidate for Green Bay?
Definitely.
Because you're looking at an AFC to an NFC trade. It's not going to affect each other as far as competition. Jeudy could be that true number one for Aaron Rodgers. He does just about everything on the field. Is that the guy you're thinking that'd be a marriage made in heaven?
100%, guys.
Yeah.
If that ends up happening, we are going to see a different offense from that of the Packers. They just don't have anything from a receiving core. I mean, when you're walking out Sammy Watkins and he's not even generating shit, and then you have Christian Watson, John, what you mentioned in the news, that's just banged up to all hell. And then you're relying on a 4th, 5th round draft pick and Romeo Doubs. Like, it just doesn't sit right, man. And then they're just kind of discombobulated as an offense itself. You feel some tension between Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur. And then, obviously Aaron Jones has stepped up absolutely with these injuries and in the absence of some of these guys. But Aaron Rodgers needs somebody to rely on, somebody that he knows. And why this makes so much sense, John, as well, is not because of, Jerry Jeudy being, a big fantasy relevant guy. It's because of the route running with Jerry Jeudy. Aaron Rodgers loves great route running receivers, just like any quarterback. But for whatever reason, Green Bay just tends to find those guys. Think about Randall Cobb in his prime, Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams. All of those guys in their peaks were phenomenal route runners. Not great receivers, super great outside of Devontae. They were phenomenal route runners. And so that's why I think Jerry Jeudy being a part of this Packers offense, man, makes so much sense. I would do everything I possibly can to make sure I get him if I'm the Packers. Everything.
All three of these guys we're just talking about with Brandon Cooks, Chase Claypool, and Jerry Jeudy. These are buy candidates. I would try to buy them now, buy them before the deadline. I always have to do. I just made a deal for Chase Claypool. Didn't cost me much. Rondale Moore wasn't a big deal. I could swap those guys out. But I want the opportunity if Chase Claypool goes somewhere where he can be a number one receiver or be heavily involved on a different team that's not the Steelers right now. I want to try to do that and see what I can get out of it. Frankie, we've got breaking news here, buddy. Got to use the howl for the breaking news. I was hoping this is going to happen, but we've got a trade that just happened. The news just broke. The Lions are sending tight end TJ Hawkinson to the Vikings. Whoa. Yes, okay. Man. All right. Well, we're not prepared for this, but let's talk about this for a second. I love breaking news. I hope this happens the whole goddamn podcast. We won't even get to anything else. Let us just react to all the news happening. TJ Hawkinson to the Vikings. Break it down, brother. What's going on here?
Love it. Love it. Love it. So there's two things that this does, guys, and this is super exciting. This is truly breaking. We have no idea that this was going to happen. Okay. This is super exciting. Irv Smith, that means that injury is way worse than what it's probably coming off. Okay. Yep. That means that the MRI was probably positive. That means dude's going to be out multiple weeks, maybe season. That's first and foremost.
Yep.
Secondly, TJ Hawkinson is a freaking stud. He is a very, very good tight end. Coming out of Iowa, he was excellent. Going to Detroit, he's been excellent. Yeah, he's had a couple bust weeks for sure. That's also a different caliber offense, being that of Detroit compared to that of Minnesota, man. So when you're in a Minnesota team now that has JJ on one side, Adam Thielen on the other, KJ Osborne is the third, now you have a true tested, improved red zone threat in that of TJ Hawkinson. It's going to be interesting, John, because I think that the fantasy implications will be pretty linear. I think it is a bit of a jump in my opinion because of the offensive style with Kevin McConnell and all those guys leading the charge from the OC perspective. But from an NFL standpoint, it's pretty linear, man. I think that the usage for what Detroit was looking at, TJ Hawkinson, will translate very well for that of Minnesota. So it makes a lot of sense. John, do you know what, just curious, man, I'm going to throw something at you. Do you know what they got for him? Do you know what?
I don't. No, I haven't seen any of the details. I just saw it was per Ian Rappaport, so that's a reliable source.
Yeah.
But haven't seen the details. So it's obviously it's an insider, tip that he got. But no, I haven't seen. I'm very curious of what the deal is. Maybe before the end of the pod, maybe when I go on one of my rants, you can try to look it up here.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
Love it.
I think what it could also do, Justin Jefferson, first of all, has been an absolute beast, but he hasn't scored since week 1. Mm-hmm. He's had 2 touchdowns in week 1, and he hasn't had a single touchdown since. I think this could help him in the red zone. You're thinking, well, you got a red zone tight end. It's probably going to take from JJ. I think it's going to help him. You're not going to be able to roll over coverage onto JJ like you've been used to in the past. Having Thielen, having JJ, having Hawkinson now a true threat in the middle of the field like that, I think it helps everybody. I think it helps boost that team. Wow, great trade. Love seeing that. Now, what do you think this does for Detroit? This has got to boost Amon-Ra St. Brown. Am I right?
Significantly. And I think this boosts everybody around that. Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift out of the backfield, getting some nice dump offs. I also think if DJ Chark can get healthy, this will boost him a bit. Or maybe it's Khalil Raymond. So maybe or Cliff Raymond, he might end up even getting a couple boosts if DJ Chark is still down. So I think collectively, man, this will do a lot for that of Detroit. And John, I do want to call out one thing too. I wanted to look this up. What has Irv Smith's production been? So I want to think about this from a fantasy side because this will give us some really good insight into TJ Hawkinson, right? So before the bye week here, John, which was week 7, he had and this is half PPR, guys. He had 7.7 points, 6.2, 3.8, 4.2, and 12. So what that shows me is he was, tight end number 19, tight end number 20. Okay. Mm-hmm. Imagine what the upgrade of TJ Hawkinson is going to do. John, TJ Hawkinson he was already a top 10 guy. This is those 3s and 2s that you see there are going to be 6s and 7s, and that's going to be his floor, in my opinion, looking at this. So again, really exciting shit, man. This is really cool.
Really, really cool. Love it. I hope some more news breaks, and if it does, you're going to hear the howl, baby. All right, let's get to Frankie and Johnny's Song of Ice and Fire. All right, let's do this. Not a lot of guys, as far as ice goes, that completely destroyed you this week. It was a pretty exciting fantasy week. It really, really was. A lot of scoring, a lot of really high scoring. But let's break down some of these guys who did shit the bed and probably hurt you pretty bad. I'm going to start off with a quarterback here, Daniel Jones. He was on fire last week. Dude came back down to ice. He was 17 for 31, 176 yards. 6 for 20 rushing, a fumble, and 5 sacks. He had 3 points. He came down to earth. He was one of those guys where I said, listen, everybody's on him right now, but unless he runs for 100 yards a game, he's just without the rushing. He doesn't have a lot of fantasy value. Sure enough, we got to see it this week. All right, Frankie, who else we got on ice?
John, we got Cortland Sutton for the Denver Broncos. He had 1 catch on 4 targets for a whopping 13 yards. John, that is less than 2 points from your more than likely receiver 2. Cortland Sutton, you are on ice.
Yes, you are. As long as Jerry Jeudy is healthy and on that team, Cortland Sutton, you could see it in the stats. When Jeudy was out, Sutton was absolutely amazing. When Judy's in there, not very good games. So you pay attention if Jeudy gets traded. If Jeudy gets traded, it boosts Cortland Sutton massively.
Crazy.
We've already seen it this year when Jeudy was out. All right, here's another guy that may have some trade implications as well coming up, but this guy was on ice. At this point, he's really impossible to start. Darrell Henderson, running back for the Los Angeles Rams. He had 4 carries for 16 yards, 2 catches for 14, 4 points. Now, Darrell Henderson reminds me, this is one of those things. It's Halloween themed here, Frankie. So I've got some Halloween videos.
Okay.
Daryl Henderson is like that low budget costume, like that plastic mask your mom used to buy you that you used to get at, Walgreens or whatever. Yeah. But, rumors of Kareem Hunt going there and getting traded. I think you're going to have, a little low budget costume, and then you've got the high budget costume. Enjoy.
Have no fear, just your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man here. It's the worst Spider-Man I've ever seen. Hey. Wow, yeah, that is like, I'm kind of freaking out because you look so good. You probably get this all the time. Are you the real Spider-Man?
Yeah, Daryl Henderson is like the low budget Spider-Man, and if Kareem Hunt does come in there, he's going to be the max budget Spider-Man, no question about it. All right, Frankie, who else we have on ice?
All right, Johnny, we got Drake London for the Falcons. He had 4 catches on 5 targets for only 31 yards, guys. In half PPR, that is 5 points. Drake London, you are frozen solid, brother.
Now, this guy was a plug-in for me for my Superflex League because I had Ryan Tannehill starting. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be cute here. I'm going to start Malik Willis, his backup, rookie quarterback drafted by the Tennessee Titans. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be cute and throw him in there and watch him run for 1 million yards and just come out on fire. No, he's on ice. He's still frozen. He's still thawing right now. 6 for 10, 55 yards passing and an interception. Oh my God.
How many points is that, John?
I think Christian McCaffrey had more passing yards than Malik Willis. It had to be very close. He had 5 rushes, though, 12 yards, 3 sacks. He had negative points. Thank you, Malik Willis, for trashing my Superflex team this week. All right, Frankie, this next guy's one of your man crushes. Talk about him. What'd he do to you this week?
Oh, man, he did me dirty. That's for sure. Gabe Davis for the Buffalo Bills. 2 catches on 7 targets. Now, the 7 targets are nice, but 2 catches for only 35 yards. Guys, that's 4 points from Gabe Davis after being hot for about 3 straight weeks. Gabe Davis, you are on ice.
All right, this next guy, he's been kind of a fantasy darling, but I think we've seen a little bit of a new reality right now. Brian Robinson, running back for the Washington Commanders, 8 for 20, only 2 points. Now, this is what I'm going to say about Brian Robinson. All right, you've got to manage your expectations with him right now. And what we got to see is, I think we're going to see this happen more often. When they're getting blown out and they're getting beat, which it's not a great team. They're really not. Very middle of the road, low end team. When they're getting blown out, he's not the pass catching guy. They've got 2 other guys catching passes there with Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick. So when they're getting blown out, he's not going to get much play. Mm-hmm. Yeah, not at all. So this is the thing. I'm going to play a video here. You've got to manage your expectations. It's expectations versus reality. You get that costume and you go, man, I'm going as fucking Batman this year. It's going to be sweet. You buy the costume and you get it. Nah, is it really that sweet? I don't know.
What do you think? Did you get the right size? Oh yeah, man. Can you flex for me? Yeah, flex. Yeah. No, yeah, but flex though. Yeah, I'm flexing. Oh. Yeah. I think he looks great. That's fine. Yeah. Let's go, boys. Hey, because you are. Yeah. Barely.
Barely. He's barely a guy you can start on your roster right now. It's got to be juicy matchups. It's all about game script, I think, for Brian Robinson. All right, Frankie, we had a trio of characters take a shit here on a very specific team, and I know this hurt a lot of people. Why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, man. So I'm looking at Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, and Hunter Renfrow. I'm just going to lump all 3 of them shitbags in together. We had Derek Carr, John. He threw the ball 26 times, only completed 15 for 101 yards, one interception, 3 sacks. What does that equate to? Glad you asked. Negative points. Negative. All right, well, let's go to Devontae Adams. He had to have done better, right? Wrong. He had 1 catch for negative yards, 1 rush for negative yards, 1 catch for 3 yards, which equals negative points, guys, or excuse me, 0.7, which is basically negative. So Devontae Adams also not having a great day. And let's go back to the naked mole rat here. How did he do? Shit. That's how I'm going to say. Yeah, shit. 1 for 2, 1 catch, 2 targets, 6 yards, 1 point. You know, the good news is, though, John, Hunter Renfrow at least had more points than Devontae Adams. So if you had to start one or the other, bad news is it was shit all around.
All right, well, we had a question come in here from your brother Drew, actually. Shout out to Drew Laurie. His question simply was, what the fuck, Devontae Adams? Frankie, can you answer his question, please?
It's a great question, Drew, and I really appreciate that question. It's very, very in-depth, and so I'm going to try to handle this as best as I can.
Yes, so, professional question. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. So Devontae Adams, guys, it's been directly related to the play of Derek Carr. For whatever reason, they are just not on the same page the last few weeks, and you know, coming out of, you know, these last few games, Devontae Adams, we saw him pop off, and then he's been, you know, declining, and then pop off and declining. I hate to say this, but he's trending towards more of a boom bust tier 1 type of guy than maybe we've seen in a long time. Maybe since that, John, of Tyreek 2-3 years ago, right? Remember when he would have, hey, he's going to have that 40 point, but then he's going to have that 6 point, right? That 30 point and then a 2 point. And unfortunately, this is kind of the trajectory of what Devontae Adams is on right now. The good news is the Raiders suck. And I say that because they are doing everything they possibly can to still be relevant within the division. And a division that's really not that great compared to what everybody's expectations were, right, coming into the season. And so they're still technically in the playoff hunt. So if these guys can just really get their shit together, win some of these key games against the Broncos, Chargers, etc., they might be able to sneak in. Now, it's very, very low probability. I think it was less than 5%. But you're telling me there's a chance? I'm going to take it. So that's what's going on, man.
All right. Hopefully that answered the question for Drew. Last guy on ice here, Devonta Smith, wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. Nothing to freak out about here. It was just the A.J. Brown show. It was, I mean, he was just absolutely ridiculous. If he's open every time, he's going to be the first look for Jalen Hurts. Devonta Smith, 5 catches on 8 targets, 23 yards, only 5 points. So he still had the looks. He still had the targets. Just they were all very short. Nothing happening there. All right, you know, Frankie, got to do a little Halloween Rage Monster. We got to bring the Rage Monster back. Let's see what he brought for us for Halloween on ice.
Walk back. No, give me a couple minutes. I'll get it. What is that, guys? Larry, is that part of this? I never seen that horse before. Come on! What do you mean it's not part of it? Go rage on it. I can't just flip a switch and rage on it. What do you want me to do? Oh! I got you, buddy. Oh! Go! Oh, this one's gonna be good. Oh, he's a Jedi Knight! Rage Monster! Rage Monster!
So well done.
You know, great shout out to the Dude Perfect guys for their special effects there. Really high quality effects. That was funny, man. I love that. Got to bring out the Rage Monster. All right, Frankie, let's get to fire. Let's start talking here. On fire, I want this guy, Frankie, because I made a trade for him. I told people on the podcast to trade low for him because better days are ahead. I ended up getting him, and damn did he blow up for me this week. The number 1 fantasy player on the week. Alvin Kamara, running back for the New Orleans Saints, 18 rushes for 62 yards and a touchdown. Here's what we're missing, and here's what's good to see him back doing again. 9 catches on 10 targets, 96 yards, 2 tutties, like you like to say, 38 points out of Super Camario. Great job. Frankie, who's next on fire?
John, we got King Henry X. That is Derrick Henry here. He ran the ball 32 times for not one, not two, 219 yards and 2 tuddies. He also added 1 reception for 9 yards. What's that equate to, guys? 38 points. Fun fact of the day by Frank. This is 4 straight 200-yard games against the Houston Texans. John, Derrick Henry was on fire.
He is on fire. You know, I got a little video for King Henry here. You got to, with the king, you got to have some king-size candy here. King Henry's the guy. He doesn't give you the little ones. He doesn't give you the regular candy bars. He gives you the fucking king size.
Pretty special, huh? Full sizes.
Mr. Ferguson gives us king size.
He does what?
Hey, Carl. King size. It's all the rage for the kids these days.
Thanks, Mr. Ferguson. Hate to do it to you, Mr. Ferguson, but looks like the Candy King has prevailed. How about a colossal kiss or a Reese's cup the size of a cast iron skillet? Not all heroes wear capes. I bid you adieu. Have a good night, though. Beep, beep, beep.
You're going to want to use your legs on this one, okay?
1, 2, 3.
All right, don't hurt the back, boys. Have a great Halloween, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson.
That's right. That's King Henry, is that big-ass candy bar right there. All right, I want to talk about this next, guys, here. We got a stack going on. I've got this stack in one of my leagues, and I've been riding this and enjoying the hell out of this stack. This is the Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Philly special stack, man. Jalen Hurts continuing to just absolutely ball out. He's got to be an MVP candidate at this point. 19 for 28, 285 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. And you say, oh my God, all he's got is his rushing floor. No. He did it through the air. He had 2 rushes for 10 yards. He still brought you 33 points. And where did all those touchdowns go? They went to A.J. motherfucking Brown. 6 catches on 11 targets, 156 yards and 3 touchdowns, 38 points from A.J. Brown. I'm not good at math here. 71 points between the two of those guys. Yeah, you're going to win that week with that stack. All right, Frankie, talk to us about a little the Triple Crown winner this week with the trifecta.
The trifecta. I will gladly do that. We have Mr. McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, after being traded to the 49ers, has had a wonderful game so far. It's his second game. He ran the ball 18 times for 94 yards and a touchdown. He also had 8 catches on 9 targets for 55 yards and a touchdown. And here is the kicker. He threw the ball 34 yards for a touchdown pass, all equating to 37 points. John, fun facts by Frank coming at you hot. He is the first guy to have the Triple Crown since 2005. With, by the way, still is one of my top 5 favorite players of all time. Was the last guy to do this. LaDainian Tomlinson in 2005. So Christian McCaffrey riding hot into the sunset with your new team, the 49ers, baby.
All right. We got another guy here. Tony Pollard on fire. Zeke was out, and I'm sorry, Pollard is a better running back at this point in their careers, man. There is no question about it to me. 14 rushes for 131 yards and 3 damn touchdowns. 1 catch for 16 yards. 36 points out of Tony Pollard. All right, who is next, Frankie?
John, we got Tua Tagovailoa, and he threw the ball 36 times, completed 29 of those passes for a whopping 382 yards, guys. He also had 3 touchdowns and had 19 yards rushing. What does this equate to? 34 points for tanking for Tua. Well done, Tua. You continue to bring the heat in Miami.
I love it. Frankie, why don't you talk about the last guy on fire here? It's a guy that both of us were able to grab off the waiver wires and plug in, and he just did a beautiful thing for us.
For those listening, make sure you are active on that waiver wire. We are giving you waiver wire hints every week, and trust us when we say it, it pays off. I'm talking about Deontay Foreman. He ran the ball 26 times for the Carolina Panthers for 118 yards and not one, not two, 3 touchdowns, which equates to 32 points. And my Lord, was he freaking on fire, man, after this week. So Deontay Foreman, well done, sir. And John, real quick here, I want to touch on something with AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. Is it possible and is it feasible for us to say, based on what AJ Brown has done to elevate the play of Jalen Hurts, which has happened in a direct correlation, could we say that AJ Brown is also potentially a dark horse for MVP? Like, if there wasn't a time, right? We thought back to Cooper Kupp's last season last year, but the difference was AJ Brown this year, how he's changed that entirety of that offense. Last year, we knew what Cooper Kupp was. We knew that Matt Stafford could ball. We were really kind of unsure for the passing expectations of that of Jalen Hurts. Nobody is questioning that anymore. So my question to you is, John, and for those listening and watching, could we see a receiver finally have real talks outside of what Cooper Kupp did last year for MVP based on what he's done for this offense?
It's extremely rare, but if he keeps this pace, he has to be in the conversation.
It has to be.
But one thing this does show is there's a formula now that I think you're going to see with a lot of teams moving forward. We've seen it over the past couple of years. I think it really started with Stephon Diggs going over with Josh Allen. As soon as you bring that true elite number one receiver over to a potentially elite quarterback, they just lift each other up. The high tide raises all boats. And we've seen it with Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. We're seeing it now with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. We've seen it with Jamar Chase and with Joe Burrow. I think you're going to see a lot more of this. A couple other guys here I want to mention that did have great games for you. Dak Prescott, welcome back, 29 points. Marcus Mariota continues to have those big weeks from time to time. 29 points out of him. D-Hop, you're glad that he's doing this again. D-Hop back doing D-Hop things, 29 points. Kyler Murray, 28 points. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill both went absolutely apeshit. We talked about Tua being able to support them both. He does, and just gives enough food around for everybody to eat. They each had 27 points. DJ Moore, he was my flex appeal guy last week. I had to bring him up. He's been an absolute shitbag all year long. The matchup was perfect. PJ Walker's playing very well. They've got a running game going on now. DJ Moore with 26 points. So you got to love that. All right, Frankie, why don't you help us out quickly here? Run through a few guys on the waiver wire that can help us out here, man. There's a lot of buys this week, so help us out.
A lot of buys, guys. So for the bye weeks this week, we have Cleveland, Dallas, Denver, the New York Giants, Pittsburgh, and San Francisco. A lot of high-quality players are going to be on bye. So really be looking at the waiver wire. So right now, I have a few that I want to hit on. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth, but number one here is Josh Palmer. So he looks like he's trending upwards, which is fantastic from his injury. What we've known is that the Chargers are coming off a bye week, which was much needed to get them healthy between him and Keenan Allen. Mike Williams is out, so they do need that number two to really rise up and play alongside of that if Keenan Allen, assuming he is healthy. So for those of you who are looking to potentially get, a nice floor of 6 points out of a potential flex player, Josh Palmer might be that guy playing at Atlanta this week, John.
Okay.
Number two here, guys, I'm actually going to go with Rachaad White versus the Los Angeles Rams. So yes, he only had 4 rushes for 19 yards and 3 receptions for 24 yards, which equates to 7 points, guys. He could see an uptick in play, especially with the Bucs playing behind and actually been losing. So they might want to see what they have. In addition, Lenny hasn't been playing well. Leonard Fournette, guys, for those of you who know and watched him, there has been a slight decline, and it might be due to usage. And so with them maybe wanting to back up a bit from Lenny and maybe move forward, especially in passing downs with that of Rachaad White, it might be interesting in deep leagues, guys, to stash Rachaad White and see what happens in the coming weeks. Number 3 here, I'm going to go with Caleb Huntley. This guy continues to impress. And mind you, he is a rental. I'm going to repeat that. He is very much so a rental until Cordero Patterson is back and ready. but he continues to play very well alongside of that of Tyler Algier. So he had 16 rushes for 91 yards, which equates to 8 fantasy points. Again, he will continue to split time, but if you need an interesting replacement for a bye week, he could be an okay option, especially if he's that on the waivers and you can get him for dirt cheap. The next two I want to lump in, they are very, very, very good players that should be rostered. I want to repeat that. These guys need to be rostered. If they are on your waivers, pick them up. It is Kenyon Drake and Rondale Moore. Kenyon Drake, what we saw him do when Gus Edwards went out, it was really, really vintage Kenyon Drake from what we've seen in the Cardinals. He had 62 yards rushing, 4 receptions, and a touchdown. If Edwards is still out, Drake is a very nice play at New Orleans this week. In addition to that, with Rondale Moore, they're playing against Seattle. This is a massive game because it's a divisional game. And so what we've seen is with Rondale Moore, if he is still on that waiver, pick him up. With Marquise Brown being on IR, D-Hop coming back and really cementing himself again as the true number 1, Rondale Moore stepped up as the number 2. He had 7 receptions, 8 targets, 92 yards, a touchdown, 24 points. And here's the kicker. He had, out of the last 4 weeks, 3 of them, he's had double-digit fantasy weeks. So again, if he is on the waivers, pick his ass up and feel very comfortable starting him, at least for the time being in this week and potentially next.
All right. Appreciate it, man. Hopefully we can get those guys off the waiver. Let's hit it and quit it.
I want you to hit it.
All right, man, let's hit it and quit it. Let's see, who's this week's first hit it for you, Frankie? Who do you got going on here? Who do you want?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to hit the hell out of Aaron Jones this week. I'm putting my money where my mouth is here. Last week, guys, he had 20 carries for 143 yards. He had 4 receptions on 5 targets for 14 yards, which equates to 19 points. The reason why I'm smashing that bell and hitting Aaron Jones, playing him everywhere I can, is because they're playing the worst defense in fantasy right now against Detroit. It's also a very, very must-win game in a divisional rival. And what we've seen is with the decimation of their receiving core, Aaron Jones has been that focal point of the offense. So with Lazard hurt, Watson out, and Sammy Watkins being irrelevant as hell, Aaron Jones, I'm hitting the shit out of you this week.
All right. I hit him last week, and he sure paid off. My first hit it this week is going to be Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs had a bit of a rough go last week. The whole team did. He was only 10 for 43, but the game was out of hand. He really had no chance. They just got completely boat raced in that game. So he didn't really have the chance to do that. He's got 6 touchdowns in the previous 3 games, though. And when he's over 20 rushes, he gets 140 yards rushing, man. He's the running back 6 right now, even with a really rough game last week. Playing on the road in Jacksonville. Jacksonville, they've been really up and down and just kind of been meh on defense. They're really a middle-of-the-road defense. I think Josh Jacobs is a smash play this week. I think they get back to a ground game that's going to help open up their passing game for Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow. So I'm smashing and hitting Josh Jacobs.
Love it. Love it. Hey, John, real quick, before I get to my second hit it, I want to give a little bit of the details on that Hawkinson trade that just came through. So,
nice. Yeah, quick, what do we got?
For those of you listening and watching, the Vikings received TJ Hawkinson, a 2023 4th round pick. Give me a second here. 2023 4th round pick and a 2024 conditional 4th round pick. What the Lions get a 2023 2nd round pick and a 2024 3rd round picks. That's multiple picks. So what's very interesting about this for those listening is Detroit now has 4 picks in the first 2 rounds of next year's draft by now trading away TJ Hawkinson. Wow.
That's a great move.
Great job by both teams. I definitely see the value. So apologize, John. As soon as that came through, I wanted to make sure I gave it its right due.
No, that's beautiful. What a great trade for the Lions. Really giving up a great player, but man, you're getting a second round pick and a couple of thirds. That's beautiful, man. On a team that's on the rise, no question.
Yes. So my second hit it, John, I'm actually going to go with Scary Terry. It's Halloween season, right? And he has been scary as hell, man, the last few weeks in a really good way. He had 8 targets for 6 and had 6 receptions on those 8 targets last week for 113 yards. And what that equates to in half PPR, guys, that is 15 points. Here's the interesting thing. Since Taylor Heineke has taken over, he has had 16 targets in the last 2 weeks. 16 targets. He's back. Scary Terry is back. He's playing against Minnesota. So what that means to me, John, is Minnesota's probably going to be up. So this game script could be big for Scary Terry and Heineke. So look out for an additional potentially 8 target run for Terry McLaurin, and hopefully getting him around that double-digit mark once again. Scary Terry, I'm hitting you, baby.
Oh, yeah. Hit him hard, man. My last hit it is going to be Miles Sanders. Not typically a guy that I'm high on, but you know what? I'm seeing some trends, and I'm seeing the data here that's showing. Miles Sanders is the running back 18, very quietly in my mind. Last week, he only had 9 rushes, but he had 78 yards and a touchdown on those rushes. He's averaging 8.7 per carry last week. I think because of how efficient and how good this offense is and how scary the passing game and the running from the quarterback is, I think it's really opening things up to be really efficient. So even if he's not getting a ton of work on the ground, he's being very, very efficient for it. He would have had more. He was rested in the fourth quarter in the blowout. They didn't put out their starting running backs. First time this season that he's received fewer than 13 carries, and he still played well with it. So I think that 13 carry range is more like what you're going to see out of him. He's had double-digit fantasy points in 5 out of 7 games. Washington, it's not a scary defense. And the lanes will be opening up, will be open with this passing attack. So I think he's never going to see a stacked box, first of all. So I do think he's going to play very well this week at home against the Washington Manders. All right, Frankie, who are you going to quit this week?
Ooh, so John, I'm going to go big. I'm going to go big on some of these quits. I'm going to be a little aggressive, guys, because I want to be able. I'm basing this off of the data, right? Let's be data driven here for a second. And this is really difficult to even say. My first quit, John, is going to be Jonathan Taylor, the number 1 consensus fantasy pick this year for almost every single draft. The reason being, guys, this hurts to even say this.
That's a hot take, man. That's a real hot take. Yeah.
We know New England's rush defense is pretty damn good. Okay. Yeah. Here's the other thing. With Sam Ehlinger under the center, playing the Pats defense with already Jonathan Taylor banged up, what do you think Belichick's going to do? He's going to stack the box. He's going to do everything. He might put 9 in the box and play man-to-man on the outside, right? And so what we saw last week, okay, against a very formidable foe in that of Washington, but also, I mean, to be fair, Jonathan Taylor should have ran all over him. He had 16 carries for 76 yards and a fumble. Okay, that equates to 4.6 points. I'm really getting sick and tired of Jonathan Taylor not even eclipsing the double-digit mark. So, guys, I'm going to put my neck out on the line, and I'm going to quit Jonathan Taylor as long as you have a better option at RB. But Jonathan Taylor, I quit you.
I don't like him this week, but I'm not trading him. You can't get anything for him at this point to make up the value. He's going to have some games. I don't think it's going to be this week. I do agree with you. All right, my first quit it is going to be Brian Robinson, running back for the Washington Commanders. We saw him on ice this week, talked about why he was on ice. I think it's going to be a very similar game script this week versus Minnesota. He was 8 for 20 last week. Like I said, it's all about game script. If they're winning, they're going to run the ball. He's going to get it. If they're losing, there's 2 other pass-catching running backs with Gibson and McKissick in the backfield. I just don't think you're going to see a lot of it. It's not going to be a positive game script with Minnesota. Minnesota is going to move the ball. They're going to score on this team. And I just don't think you're going to see Brian Robinson with that many attempts. I think he's going to have less than 10 touches once again this week. Quit Brian Robinson. All right, Frankie, John, who else you got, buddy?
Yeah, man, I'm going to go to his brother. Brother from
Okay.
another mother, James Robinson here. And
Okay.
and they are playing James Robinson, guys, and the Jets are playing Buffalo. Anytime any team's playing Buffalo, it is very difficult to
You
start
might as
them.
well have just said quit all of the Jets while you're at it.
Quit.
Just quit
So-
the team.
Yeah, I mean, first off, Buffalo's self-explanatory. Secondly, he rushed last week 5 times for 17 yards, which equated to 2 points. Now again, facing this type of team, I think Michael Carter is a much better start due to the passing and what would be potentially the game script. So James Robinson, sorry, brother. I'm quitting you this week.
I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that one. My last quit it is going to be Darrell Henderson at Tampa Bay this week. He just hasn't really been involved. Ronnie Rivers, I mean, really? I'm saying the name Ronnie Rivers. Ronnie Rivers and Malcolm Brown took a lot of carries away from Darrell Henderson. It just wasn't good last week. He only had 41% of the snaps, 4 rushes for 16 yards, 2 catches for 14 yards. It's not going to do it. Tampa Bay they've had a lot of struggles in the passing game, but their run defense is very tough. Not only that, you could get a running back before the trade deadline to this team. It's very, very likely that they're going to make a move for somebody. Kareem Hunt has been in the talks already. That could be a serious possibility. They want to replace him. So therefore, I'm not starting his ass this week. So sit Darrell Henderson. All right, man. We're almost through everything here. Let's do a little flex appeal. Oh, yeah. You know, your outfit is perfect for that. You just look like you should be doing some flex appeal dances like that. All right, man. Who are we flexing? Who's got flex appeal in your mind?
Ooh, yeah. My first flex appeal, guys, is going to be Chris Olave versus Baltimore. So last week he had 7 targets, he had 5 receptions, 52 yards, which is 8 points. So they're playing against a Baltimore secondary that has gotten torched as of recent. And Andy Dalton is playing pretty damn good football. And Andy Dalton also knows the Ravens pretty damn well. So I think as long as Mike Thomas continues to be out, Jarvis continues to be hurt, Chris Olave is going to be the guy. So I really think he's a good, solid start this week against that of the Baltimore Ravens.
All right, I am flexing Jacoby Myers this week at home versus Indianapolis. He's currently the wide receiver 26. Can you believe that? That kind of shocked me when I saw that. Yeah, he's right on the fringe of a wide receiver 2. He scored in 3 of the last 4 games with double-digit points in 3 of the last 4 games. Last week, he was 9 for 12 for 60 yards and a touchdown. He's been averaging 6 catches, 69 yards, and half a touchdown per game this entire season so far. He missed a few games, but the games that he's played, that's what he's averaging. Devontae Parker is likely to be out, so his target share will increase. And this Colts team they're playing against has just been an absolute shit show. Everybody's really been able to do a lot with them. I think Jacoby Myers is a slam dunk and easily put into your flex, if not a wide receiver 2, if you're missing some guys for the bye weeks. All right, Frankie, who do you got next?
My last flex appeal, guys, is going to be Juju Smith-Schuster versus Tennessee. So obviously prior to the bye week that they just had, the Chiefs just had, he had back-to-back monster games. I mean, he had 22 fantasy points and 24 fantasy points. But here's the key: against very good defenses. That was against Buffalo and San Francisco. Tennessee is nowhere near those types of defenses. So if Juju can come back, especially after a well-rested bye week, still keep that same synergy with that of Patrick Mahomes, which I see translating even after this bye week, I love firing up Juju.
All right, good luck with that. You got to roll the dice. One of those guys is going to have great games, so why not Juju? All right, my last flex appeal here is going to be Tyler Lockett, wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks at Arizona. Tyler Lockett's the wide receiver 12 right now. He's typically a boom bust guy, but he really hasn't been that this year. I think it's because of the consistent play of Geno Smith. I mean, really, he's had 8 targets in the last 2 weeks. I mean, that you fire that guy up no matter who it is. Yeah, he's been a little boom bust historically, but I'm calling boom this week. Arizona has been absolutely torched in the passing game. Just been atrocious. So I think Tyler Lockett is really set up to have a really nice game. So feel good about him in your flex or wide receiver 2 for that matter. All right, Frankie, let's get to crossing. Let me find the video. That's always a hard one to find here, man. Let's cross the streams here, baby.
We'll cross the streams.
Excuse me, Egon. You said crossing the streams was bad.
Cross the streams.
All right, man. Give me some streaming candidates here for quarterback, tight end, and defense.
All right, John. Well, we're on a roll right now with these streams, guys. So please be paying attention. We've nailed them the last 3 weeks. Okay. So this past week, we had Kirk Cousins for the streaming quarterback. He had 23 points. Greg Dulcich for the tight end, who had 11 points. And Seattle's defense, John, nailed it again, baby. 18 points. So pay attention this week. This week, we are looking at Trevor Lawrence versus that of the Vegas Raiders. The reason being, guys, this makes a lot of sense. The Vegas Raiders defense is ranked 31st in fantasy. So please feel comfortable firing up Trevor Lawrence. The tight end this week, I'm going with Tyler Conklin versus Buffalo. He is definitely boomer bust tight end, and he definitely has had some issues. However, he's the number 6 tight end in fantasy right now. Okay. They are playing Buffalo. Very good team. The only thing that Zach Wilson needs, though, is a nice check down Charlie. So that's why Tyler Conklin could be very interesting this week to get you a decently high floor. And the last defense, I stuck my neck out there a little bit this week. I'm going with the Bucs D versus that of the Rams. The Rams are a little bit banged up. Rams are a little bit in turmoil. Bucs as well. I think, though, the Bucs are going to be able to make a turnaround here against this Rams team who, quite honestly, just hasn't been that great. So I really think this could be a very interesting defense to stream this week.
All right. Your streamers have been money. I got to tell you, I've been taking your advice myself, and it's definitely worked out. All right. That is the show for the day, the Halloween edition of the Frankly Fantasy Football Podcast. Before we go, I do have another video because I just love these stupid damn videos, man. You know, Frankie's had this, we had a whole episode, the Frankie's a trade sex offender, you know, so you've had some good trades. You have gotten rid of that title. I will say your trades have been much better. Your offers have been much better. So I want to help get rid of that moniker for you, that label on you. Okay. But this is definitely what you did for Trick or Treat. Definitely. No question.
Trick or treat.
Can I help you?
Well, that depends. Do you have any Kit Kat bars? Heck, I'll take anything without toffee. It's a real bitch on the fillings. Hey, don't call me a bitch. You're the bitch. What? Seriously, though, trick or treat.
Aren't you a little old to be trick-or-treating?
Wait, is 43 too old to be in the Halloween spirit? And by spirit, I don't mean ghost. Heck, I'm not that old. What? Look, I realize this is a little unusual, but, I just moved into the neighborhood, and, I figured I'd use trick-or-treating as an excuse to get out and make some new friends. I apologize for being so awkward.
No, that's quite all right. That wasn't very neighborly of me, and I apologize. Bob Peterson.
Jeff Montgomery, pleasure to meet you.
This doesn't excuse my behavior, but I hope you'll accept a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
Bob, I couldn't think of a better welcoming gift. Thank you.
And just out of curiosity, what exactly is your Halloween costume?
I'm a sex offender.
Excuse me?
I'm a sex offender. For Halloween.
A sex offender?
Yes, pretty convincing, huh? Here, watch this. I'm Jeff Montgomery. By law, I'm required to inform you that I'm a repeat sex offender, and I'll be living in your neighborhood. It's a great costume, right? Could you sign and date these, please?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, Frankie, by law, you are required to let everyone know that you are a trade sex offender. Twice, actually.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Special thanks and shout outs go to Anthony Sistone for his musical talents, Liam Hickey for helping us produce the podcast, Jesse Kelsey for helping us with socials. And don't forget to follow us on social media everywhere on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Watch these videos. We put stuff in here specifically for the visuals, so you got to see it. Frankly Fantasy Football. And on Twitter at Frankly Fantasy Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our sponsor, CalSpra. Frankie, I love you, buddy. Happy Halloween to you, my friend.
Happy Halloween.
See, now you screwed up my outro again, man. You stole it last week and then you interrupted me this week. May the fantasy gods smile.